The Startup Cabin podcast is brought to you by Cedarwood. Cedarwood rents out senior CFOs to the tech industry from 1 to 5 days a week. For more, go to cedarwood.co. Welcome to the Startup Cabin podcast. We share great stories from European startups. In this episode, we hear from Nevyn, CTO and iOS guru and code poet at Lookback. Lookback helps you understand users by easily letting you record mobile user experiences and bugs. Nevyn is also a speaker, a blogger, and was most recently lead iOS developer at Spotify. Now, I met Nevyn at a hackathon that was located on an island in a 17th century war fortress turned modern hotel. And she may well tell you more about that. Now, the sound in this episode, it could be better. But we are getting some new toys and we'll be able to fix all that. But if you can bear with us, Nevyn will give you more info on this great tool for your apps. And he's going to share tips and tools that Lookback uses to manage their global team.
Okay, welcome to Startup Cabin podcast.
Thank you.
So Nevyn, that's actually your name now, right?
That is actually my name now.
Yeah, so you were Joachim Bengtsson, but now you're Nevyn Joachim Bengtsson, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And where does the name Nevyn come from?
It's been my internet handle, and before that my gaming nick when I was a kid. So when I was 14, I just picked the coolest wizard from the coolest fantasy book and just stuck with it.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I sort of like it because it's supposedly Gaelic for no one. So
it's kind of cool. I mean, I have a lot of friends that you kind of have their gaming nickname as just, everybody knows them as that person, but you actually change your name to it.
Yeah. Well, using your handle is sort of nerd or hacker culture. And when I had that name for longer than my real name, I figured let's make it official, which I did last year.
Cool. So you have started together with Jonathan and Carl Lookback. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. So Lookback is a tool for iOS developers. Right now it's iOS only for recording the screen. That sounds kind of trivial, but when built the way we built it, it enables so many things. So when you record the screen and you get the camera and the microphone and all the interactions with your app, it lets you do visual bug reports, it lets you do user research studies, and whenever you want to capture the experience of a user, we're a great tool for that.
Cool. So it's mostly used for mobile developers who want to get in-depth insights into their users.
Exactly. So it's right now not an analysis tool, but rather when you want to do really deep studies of something specific and you want to record every single nuance of an interaction. Then
so you can both record the screen and the sound.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all that kind of data together. So you can both see what the user did on the screen and at the same time see their reaction.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you can actually see both what they did on the screen, but also their reaction, their face, what they were...
Exactly. Okay. And, whatever noises they make while doing so. Are they happy? Are they angry?
So all the swearing?
Absolutely.
Cool. So how did you and Jonathan and Carl meet?
Well, me and Jonathan used to work together back at Spotify a long time ago, maybe 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he quit and started his own thing, and I kept at it at Spotify. And then about 2 years ago, I started another hobby project. I have way too many hobby projects, a billion hobby code folders. And one of them was this thing where you could record the screen. So this was a problem for Spotify's UX designer at the time, Andrea, who needed to do some research. And she was so frustrated over having to set up multiple cameras and recording, and if you have a camera recording a mobile screen, you've probably done that, and it's really difficult to get a good picture, and you can't move the phone, and there's glare, and it's just terrible. And she was trying to do these studies, and it was just too frustrating. She just gave up instead and was complaining to me that, well, this is terrible. And I figured, yeah, okay, I'll just use this thing I've been thinking about and build some software for it, and that really worked out. And so I started that as a hobby project and started building on it, but I wanted it to automatically upload to web server so that, you know, you wouldn't have to transfer files or really think about where the media is. You just record it and then you have it. Simple as pie. But I don't really like web tech. It's just really frustrating to work with. I'm an iOS developer. That's who I am. I've been doing it for a decade. Or Mac before iOS. You know, I really like that stuff, and I'm not much into web. So when I was hacking at a friend's place where we used to meet every Tuesday at a friend's place to do, you know, Tuesday hack night. It was really nice. You just sit there and hack on your thing and you socialize. And at one point I just yelled out, I hate this PHP shit. Won't anyone write the web stuff for me? And Carl piped up and said, well, sure, what do you need? And that's how that got started.
Okay.
And then that started rolling, and with his input, this became something really good, and his brother really saw the potential. And that's how he joined us, when he saw that, well, we're actually building something really great and we should do something about this. And he knew how to take us together forward.
So has any one of you had like entrepreneurial experience since before?
Yeah, you could say that. Jonathan is quite an entrepreneur. He started a gaming site. I think it was his first project, called Gozy Gamers, which is, if you played StarCraft, is pretty huge.
Okay.
It was
I'm not a StarCraft girl.
But I assume some listeners are.
Yeah.
So it was a really big Swedish, or it was maybe international, I'm not sure, StarCraft site, and that he started at, I think he was 13, and that grew quite big, and it was like he made a real company out of it, which he sold, and then he started, he joined Spotify and was successful there, and then he moved on to his consultancy bureau Ripple after that. So yeah, he knew how to build companies since before, and that's what he took with him into Lookback.
So you have like pretty much the perfect team, so you don't have to do the stuff you don't want to do.
You have no idea how great that is.
I know, I had the same kind of team. It's awesome. So you started in like 2013-ish?
Yeah, ish. I'm bad with timelines, but the hobby project should have been beginning 2013, and then I took a leave of absence from Spotify at the end of 13, and we started a company around that same time frame.
Cool. What do you think is like the most, you know, what's the most unique part about Lookback?
I mean, this is the whole area of user experience. It's been around for a few years, but it's really grown only in the last years. So there hasn't been a wealth of tools, and doing the kinds of things we're doing on iOS with, you know, really recording the screen at really high fidelity and just submitting it. And you don't have to think about the process. You press record and you press stop, and then it's there on the website and you can use it wherever. There's nothing like as simple as that. And I think I'm really, really proud of the team that we've built recently. I mean, we've been building it for the past year. And I'm really amazed by the individuals we have with us, and I think we can accomplish some really great things coming up.
Cool. And you got a pretty big investment for being a Swedish startup, right?
Oh, yeah. Jonathan managed to do some really heroic work there, getting $2.2 million, $1 million,
yeah.
From Index Ventures and Lakestar.
Was that the first investment?
Yeah, that was our seed round.
So that's kind of interesting, because in Sweden, I mean, having your first investment being that scale, that's kind of uncommon.
Yeah,
but,
so I've heard.
yeah, it's, I saw that you had a couple of articles on TechCrunch and other places, because it actually is pretty different. I don't think the American startups understand this, but that's a huge sum in Europe, and especially in the Scandinavia. So what are you supposed to use the money for?
Well, we are using it. I mean, we're 12 people now, and that costs a lot.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, we're definitely using those funds.
It was for building the team and okay.
Yeah, so we made a decision somewhere around start of 2014 that, or earlier than that actually, that well, either we do like a traditional company and we get sales and we live off of that and we move, you know, a little bit at a time and we can take the slow pace, or we do, you know, the startup life, or you do it all in, and which we did, which means can't start charging customers because we want to get the growth in the beginning, and but we still need the money to grow the team and grow really quickly, which I think we've done very successfully.
So what markets are you aiming for? Did you start with the Swedish market as you're from Sweden, or?
Yeah, we have barely done any PR so far. It's been mostly viral, which means that since we're based in Stockholm, we started out in Stockholm, and that's where we've been picking up customers quite naturally. And we've been growing very well there, but now that we're quite established in Stockholm, we're looking around the world to make sure that we get some traction elsewhere as well, which we have some already, of course, but we want to really do that.
I mean, when you have kind of this kind of tool for a specific group of professionals, they usually talk to each other if it's good. Yeah.
Tech is pretty small. Tech is pretty small.
Yeah,
word spreads fast.
And especially when it comes to, as you said, like user experience, I mean, most people, even if they're doing, you know, web or mobile, it doesn't really matter. People still do like paper, you know, trials with users, etc. And I know exactly what you mean when you say, you know, setting up the cameras, and I mean, it's enough to just get the users there and put up a good test group and all of that, and then still you have to like record the process as well. So yeah, it's a lot of time, but also a lot of money for the company. Yeah. So I can really see the benefit from Lookback, and I know that I was kind of surprised when I heard about it, because I was like, wow, why haven't anyone done this before?
It is a bit more complex than you think, really, especially when you want to get that like 60 frames per second beautiful crisp video. I don't think anyone else but us does that.
But I guess that's why no one has really done that before. Because, you know, it's a very simple tool they want, but building it is super complicated.
It takes work, yeah.
Yeah. And we met the first time this year, actually, on the Hackaway.
That wasn't this year. It's a new year now.
It was last year. Last year. And, yeah, we met at Hackaway, and that was really a good trip.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed that. It was, for the listeners, it was a hackathon, but it was done as a secret trip. So they took us on a bus to somewhere, we didn't know where, 40 people, and they actually shipped us off to Gotland Island, outside of actually an island outside of Sweden. Well, it's part of Sweden, but it's
outside of the mainland Sweden, yeah.
Yeah. And you and I started playing video games.
Oh yeah.
What was that game called?
That's Towerfall, probably my favorite game ever.
Yeah, it's Towerfall.
Yes, it's such a great party game.
Listeners, you have to try Towerfall. It was amazing. We were stuck on the way home on the bus. We were like 4 people playing with the Xbox
got
controls.
My laptop and 4 Xbox controllers in my bag. You can't go to a hackathon without those.
And that was like the best bus ride ever. I still think about the game all the time, but I didn't remember the name.
Get it.
And it's such a good, just like kind of casual playing with friends kind of game. I really enjoyed it. You do. I mean, it seems like you all are pretty much gamers.
Yeah, I guess it comes with the culture.
Yeah. So do you play a lot?
I probably make more games than I play, but yeah, sure, absolutely. Mostly like StarCraft and Quake, and I might be a bit old school, but yeah, I do play quite a bit of games.
Cool. But you were at the hackathon for DreamHack also, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was more of a game jam. That was awesome.
I was a jury then,
Yeah.
but I didn't see you. I think I recognized your name afterwards or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. They've done a lot of other ones afterwards, so like the VR one. Did you?
Right. I'm so sad I missed that.
Oh, I saw the videos and they looked amazing.
I
My
believe
company
that.
was sponsoring them with business development, etc. for the winners.
I have to say the Dream Hackathon was probably the best arranged game jam I've been to, and I've been to
Yeah.
quite a few, so that
Me
was
too.
great.
It was really good, and the games itself, what people produce, was
Amazing.
I was in shock. It was so many games that were just like, just ready to ship, pretty much.
Yeah.
You can just upload them to the iTunes store. Yeah, it was cool. So, what kind of companies use Lookback?
I'm so terrible at this. As I said, I'm the developer, but I really respect, for example, Slack, which is a great tool, and they love us. We have others like Dropbox, Venmo, and is it Zipcar? Yeah, I think so. And a lot of Swedish companies like TV4 and Aftonbladet and Expressen and so on.
Mm-hmm. Is there any game companies using?
King uses us.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are more, but I don't know them by heart.
Because it feels like the kind of mobile gaming kind of industry is very, there's so many fast games that is all about, the milliseconds, etc.
Correct.
So that has to be like the perfect tool to just measure.
I mean, within game development, like user experience, they don't maybe call it user experience, but they do game testing.
Exactly.
And you need to, the most important part of making games is the gameplay, the mechanics, and making sure they're absolutely solid. And you only get there with a lot of testing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look back, or at least to me, it seems perfect for that, being able to capture the experience, see like, okay, so this didn't work, like, is the timing just a few milliseconds off, or do we need to revamp the whole mechanic or whatever?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just thinking like, especially for the mobile games, because they're so much about the small details.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do that much with a small screen. So
Right.
whatever you have there has to be like really, really smooth.
Yeah.
So do you see any kind of trends or things happening around what Lookback is doing? Something that has surprised you?
That was a difficult question.
I don't know.
Jag får fundera lite bara.
But you hadn't started a company before Lookback.
No, that's correct.
So it's your first company.
Yeah, I mean, I before Spotify, I, like everybody, did like some web consulting and released some shareware, but I never like had my own company before.
So if you look back at the past year, what do you see that you've learned?
That must be, so one of the things we're doing with Lookback is like building a distributed team. Like we saw from the beginning that it's very difficult to recruit within tech, and we really wanted great people. And the kinds of things you need to optimize for when you build a distributed team is also the kind of people we want to work with. So we want to work with people who are very good at communication, very, very humble, but still very verbose, and being able to like work in a team when you can't see each other face to face.
So a distributed team is pretty much you have several locations and you have to collaborate on different projects, right?
Right, and like people can work from home or wherever. So we have employees from around the world and working almost only on the internet, which is very challenging, and I've been learning a lot about that in myself as well, since I came from Spotify, and that's quite a different culture.
So what was the hardest part about that?
Well, you need to make sure to communicate more than you think you need, and that's surprisingly hard. I mean, being able to communicate the right things in the right amount, making sure that you're not just logging on, writing some code, and the only trace you have is a few commits. I mean, that's not enough. You need to make sure that everybody knows, that wants to know, knows what you're doing and why and how. And I think finding that balance and being able to communicate in an efficient manner and still feel like a team has been really crucial.
So what kind of tools have you been using to make that happen?
It's very interesting to me whether the tools themselves are that important, but I guess they are. So it's like we use GitHub, of course, which is great, and we even found like a hack that you could use them like a forum, like the issues on GitHub. You can because GitHub really polishes their products, and the like issues are such a good UI for just communicating in text about code and code related things. So we just used that as a forum, and that was great. I want to shout out to Squiggle, which is a tool that most people don't know about, but it's really great. It shows you, it takes a photo from your laptop screen once a minute and shows it on a grid with the rest of your team members. So you can always see who's at their computer and what they're doing and like how they're doing and stuff like that. So it sort of more feels like you're at an office together, even though you're just in front of your laptop. So that's a great tool. And then we use Flowdoc. We used to use Slack, but we moved to Flowdoc because they got a really cool feature called, flows, where you can, or threads rather, where you can have threads within one chat channel, which feels kind of weird, and the UX they have for it is actually pretty bad, and every new employee gets it wrong when they start, but it's a very efficient way of being able to communicate about different things without disturbing other people.
Smart. I mean, I do a lot of remote kind of work with part of my team, especially when it comes to my marketing team, and sometimes you can have with one person several conversations at once, because you're like looking at screenshots and giving feedback on that, and then you're sharing documents or talking about another flow or strategy versus design. You're having these, with one person you can have pretty much like 5 different conversations.
Exactly.
And I realized that we're using sometimes we just sit on the Facebook chat and it's like so bad.
Yeah.
It's not functional.
So there are tons of group chat tools like Slack and what are the others? Well, there are tons of them. But like if you have a channel called Code and you're talking with one person, you can have 3 conversations about code at the same time. So being able to create ad hoc threads within that channel and just talk about 3 different things, and people could be able to join and leave those as well is working very, very well.
Wow, I'm gonna actually try that.
Yeah,
it would be perfect.
And of course we use Trello because it's an excellent tool for keeping track of what you're doing.
Why do everybody use Trello?
Because it's so good. It's so incredibly polished.
Every technical person I know loves Trello.
Yeah, I even use Trello for like my non-tech personal projects, like going for a trip. You just create a Trello board with the stuff you're doing and invite your partner, and we're like organizing things, and we feel like total dorks, but it works.
Well, I use Pinterest for a lot of reasons I shouldn't be using Pinterest. Like,
if it works, that's
yeah, it works.
Fine.
I mean, actually, we've started to plan marketing campaigns on Pinterest, because wherever you go on the internet and you find something, it can be copy, it can be a picture or just inspiration, for example, just pin it to that board. So we have a board for each niche market that we're using. And I shared, of course, a secret Pinterest board with everyone who is involved with marketing. I think you have the brand ones and so many different things. It's actually really nice.
I think I'm gonna steal that one.
Yeah, you should. It actually is really smart, especially when you're doing all the pre-work, when you're doing inspiration or idea generating things. I mean, we were looking for super cool game quotes because one of my companies work with the gaming industry.
Yeah.
And we want to just what's the really good old known game quotes, and then we found tons of sites, and then we just pinned the pictures with the best ones, so you don't have to have a mass of research, you just need that one picture. It works for pretty much everything.
Yeah,
so
I
have tons of Pinterest boards, but I have even more secret ones. Yeah, cool. why? Yeah, Trello. I don't understand Trello. I understand it, but it's like when I've been using it, it's mostly for projects that don't really need that.
Mm-hmm.
It's become too much work, just moving everything around.
Well, as I said, like learning to work with a distributed team has meant that we've spent a year learning how do you actually communicate about the things we do, and Trello has been essential there, being able to find the right level of verbosity,
Mm-hmm.
the right level of detail per card, the right kind of boards. It sounds trivial, but it's part of your workflow, and you just figure that out as you're going. And I think it works really, really well now. And, like every feature, everything you do, it sort of has a natural flow across these boards and across these columns. And
I think people underestimate how hard it is to get a good communication flow in a company.
mm-hmm.
Especially when you're talking between technical and non-technical and across the globe and etc. But just even if you're a small company being in the same office, just deciding what to use and how to use them is, people really underestimate how much time it takes. So I can understand that it took you guys a year, but you feel like you have a good grip on it now.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. And I think being distributed has helped us there, because we can't ever take the shortcut of doing one-on-ones in real life. And I think that's my most important lesson about both from Spotify and then at Lookback, that for people to be able to communicate well, you need to make sure that you're on the same bandwidth between everyone. Like if a group of people do real life talks, gonna have to work really hard to make sure that all that information is distributed to everyone else at the same fidelity, so that everyone can partake in that information. But being distributed, everyone needs to communicate using these tools and learn to do it efficiently.
Did you have to tell people to tell them to ask questions or
We work, absolutely. We work really hard with building culture and making sure that everyone's feeling well and working well with what we're doing. And we're not forcing people to do stuff in certain ways. But everything, this kind of technology is also a tool that you need to learn to use, and these processes are things you need to learn to use. So we work really hard to make sure that everyone uses and likes these tools. Or if it doesn't work for someone, then we need to change our tools. So yeah, definitely.
I end up advising for the business clients that I have so many times just on the flow. How to get a communication flow in the company, and just having an overview of what are you actually using before you start being angry or irritated that people are not communicating enough or not everything gets kind of unstructured. You have to have some kind of baseline for the company.
Right.
And when you have a new company, you often don't know what you need. You have to try out a lot to get there. So what are you working on Lookback right now?
Ooh. We have tons of stuff. We are working on Android support. I guess that's not a secret. When that will be released, we don't even know ourselves, so you will know later.
Mm-hmm.
We're continuously working on upgrading our website. Being able to record on the phone is just a tiny part. When you have this data, the important thing is how can you then navigate through this data and play it back and share it with your colleagues and all that. So the web, we're working really, really hard with the web right now.
So when you record stuff with Lookback, you get it directly to the platform, the Lookback platform on the web?
Yeah, you don't need to worry about files or anything. It's all on the web. It's all in a nice content management system where you can filter by who recorded it, where were they in their app, which kind of device do they have, all kinds of stuff.
I wish we had that for the podcast. We have to go through so many steps to get it actually out, but yeah, that would be maybe a new startup for you guys. Make a startup that I can distribute our podcast directly from the microphone.
Working with media, we're working so much with video and audio and all these media streams, and there's so many possibilities, and there are a gazillion pivots one could do if we weren't so incredibly committed to this one thing right now.
But I mean, that's how you make a good company. You have to focus somewhere first and make it really, really good.
Oh, yeah,
and then you kind of can duplicate that process once you have it down. So
of course.
I mean,
we're absolutely committed to this now. It's just so fun to think about all the other things we also could be doing.
all the features.
Yeah.
Possible features. Okay, really nice to have you here, Nevyn.
I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
That was Nevyn, the wizard from Lookback, owning his name. I mean, he just sees someone having a problem and does magic. Not a big deal. It's just what wizards do. If you like this, go give us a review in iTunes like Matt McWilliams did. He says, Startup Cabin Podcast is awesome and doing a great job. Keep up the awesome. You got it, Matt. I got a whole case of awesome under the desk. No, that's free beer for our monthly meetups in Stockholm. Startup Entrepreneurs last Thursday every month. Join us at meetup.com/startupcabin. And until next time, I wish you much success.